Today we're painting a miniature from the AXIA Kickstarter. Check out the link below for the Kickstarter project. As usual, we're going to paint with speed paints over the Zenithal Prime. Once we're happy with our speed paint base colors, we then highlight with Warpaints Fanatics. The painting of this miniature was fairly quick, and I think I painted this miniature for only half a day. I used a few colors from the John Blanche collection, and this is actually my first time to paint a horse, and I enjoyed it so much. Join me as we paint this AXIA Miniature for their Kickstarter. Hi, I'm Don. Welcome to my studio. This channel is supported by all these awesome brands. Also, special thanks to the Army Painter for making this video possible. Oh, also do check out my discount codes and affiliate links below. I used my new gallery airbrush with the Zenithal Prime, and as expected, it worked like a charm. I then let this Zenithal Prime cure overnight before painting with speed paints. I like the balance between negative spaces and details in this miniature. We used Turnbull turquoise for the skin of the horse. I added a very small amount of speed paint medium so that I will reduce the drying time of the speed paint. The slower drying time allows me to blend the edges and pick up the painting from one section to another. You may use a bigger brush, load tons of speed paints, and work as fast as you can. Your painting with speed paints can be sloppy since this is just your base colors. Now we paint the gray parts with a cultist cloak. A cultist cloak is darker than Gravelord Gray and has a bluer tint. Bluer or even blue-violet tint, which gives more character to our base color. Now we use Blood Moon Red. This speed paint also came from the John Blanche collection. The Blood Moon Red has rich warm tones and is fairly saturated but is not too bright. As usual, you have to load your brush well and you have to paint fast so that you reduce the creation or formation of coffee stains. Now, since the miniature has a ton of small details, I decided to just paint the rest of the miniature with pallid bone. My bottle of pallid bone is almost empty and I really need to request a new batch of pallid bone. Pallid bone is a bony sepia-ish color. It's not too dark. It's a great initial base color if you just want to see the details. Then you could decide if you want darker base colors later. I'm pretty happy with the result so far, especially the skin of the horse, which is Turnbull turquoise from the John Blanche collection. Now we're using mummified grime. This is a dark greenish gray color. I don't use this often because it's very desaturated, but I think it's perfect for this miniature. Now we paint bony matter on the pallid bone areas. This will give more contrast and will darken our pallid bone base color. You may also use leather brown, which will give you a more orange-brown leather color, but I wanted these areas to be more generic. A more generic base color like you see in the video will allow me to play around with brighter, more vibrant colors without distracting me from a vibrant base color. I think this is looking good so far. We just need to paint the details and we have a fairly decent looking miniature. Now it's a matter of just painting the details of the miniature. Don't bother with the highlights yet and just keep your detail painting as clean as you can. At this point, I'm just cleaning up some errors because I have areas that were painted with speed paints that weren't supposed to be in that color. Also, you'll notice in the video that I'm trying to create more textures as I paint lighter colors on top of the base colors. Even very light colors like bony spikes, I try to paint it via stippling or scratches so that I create more textures. Airbrushing and speed paints won't create or won't give you nice textures. So, I really like adding textures to my painting because it gives an illusion that I'm a good painter. Now we're introducing different textures to the painting. I'm using like an orange-brown color to paint the straps. This gives more separation with the other details of the miniature. You can paint these details with speed paints, but I decided to paint with regular acrylics so that I have a little bit more control. Also, like I said earlier, painting with Warpaints Fanatics allows me to add more textures to my painting. Now we are almost done. Other than painting small details like the candles on top of the horse, on the head of the horse, this will look good on the gaming table already. Now if you find value out of this video, do give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. The painting from here onwards is optional, especially if you're just aiming for tabletop quality painting. But since this is painting for AXIA's Kickstarter, we want to paint this miniature at a higher level. So you could see in the video that I'm simply adding more colors, more textures to the different details of the miniature. I call this part of the painting like pre-highlight painting because the colors that we're using are bright colors, but they're not bright enough to be the final highlights. We are simply painting towards the highlights, and we're painting foundation colors or pre-highlight colors so that our highlighting or final highlights won't be too abrupt or won't be too harsh. The speed paints earlier served as our base and shade colors, but always feel free to use midtones and darker shade colors to refine the shade parts, the darker areas of the miniatures. Now we are refining the painting of the gold NMM areas or parts of the miniature. We're using various yellows and yellow ochres so that we have a good NMM before we do the final highlights. This is actually my fab part of painting any miniature, like the refining of the painting, the addition of more shades and colors, and of course, pushing your painting towards the final highlights. Although I must admit, this is the most time-consuming part of painting any miniature. However, it's really satisfying as you see the buildup of textures and colors in your miniature painting. We have yet to paint the final highlights and of course the final shades, but you could see that we produce a fairly good looking miniature. Looking at the miniature in the video right now, I'm really happy with the skin of the horse. It's just speed paints and I think it looks really good. Now to finish off Tabletop Plus quality painting, we just need to paint more highlights. I wrote this, I think, in a few of my PDF tutorials at Patreon. I said that 80, maybe 90% of Warpaints Fanatics are compatible or are like they complement being layered on top of speed paints. This is so because like most of the Warpaints Fanatics are not really that dark. So they could be layered on top of speed paint base colors, especially if the speed paints that you use are dark speed paints. Now, if you find it tricky to choose the specific color for layering on top of speed paints or for highlighting, I highly recommend you mix a small amount of Warpaint Stabilizer so that your Warpaints Fanatics will have a little bit more transparency. A little more transparency will help you transition from the speed paint base colors a little bit better. Also, you'll notice in the video that I'm not really like blending the highlights too much. I'm painting the highlights via stippling or texturing. Thus, I don't have to or I won't feel that I need to like do glazes to have good transitions. Now at this point of the video, I'm just refining the painting of the NMM. I'm painting more highlights to really bring out the metallic look of my painting. Oh, lastly, it's easier to paint final highlights if you painted the pre-highlight colors. Now, before my final thoughts, a huge thanks to all my patrons at Patreon, Hajime Model Studio, and of course, the Army Painter for making this video possible. Now here we're just painting the OSL fall off and then some additional shades with Warpaints Fanatic washes and a few quick glazes to smoothen the painting. Now obviously, even though we use speed paints, I think this is slow speed painting or totally not speed painting. Now I only spent around 5 maybe 6 hours in the painting of this miniature at this level. Like I said in the intro, this was my first painting of a horse or cavalry, and I enjoyed it so much. I enjoyed painting the highlights of the skin of the horse. I think I enjoyed the painting because AXIA Miniatures designed this miniature really well. It has the perfect balance between very nice details and negative blank spaces like the cape. The miniature is full of character, and I highly recommend you check the link below for the AXIA Miniature Kickstarter. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed painting this AXIA Miniature. That's it, Pansit. I hope you like this video. Do like, comment, subscribe, and all that stuff. Until next video, guys. Bye!